So America has attained another level of shamelessness in defending Israel's crimes against humanity after the administration led by brain-dead warmonger Joe Biden decided to send more fighter jets and warships to defend Israel in the Middle East. Yes, that's exactly the plan that is being worked upon in the Ministry of Defense in America. Then there are reports that Israeli government is also actively coordinating with its slave Arab rulers, mainly in Jordan, Egypt, UAE, and Saudi Arabia, to ensure that its protection from future Iranian attacks are taken care of. Netanyahu's Arab poodles have never disappointed him, nor are there any indications that they will change their minds in any time soon. Israel, as you know, carried out several military transgressions in violation of more international laws as Netanyahu's rogue regime carried out assassinations in the capitals of not one but two sovereign nations, namely Lebanon and Iran. The US Department of Defense, headed by Lloyd Austin, has repeated the provocative line that US commitment to Israel's defense was ironclad.
Secretary Austin spoke with Israeli Minister of Defense Gallant this morning about the destabilizing threats posed by Iran, its partners, and proxies. The secretary reiterated ironclad support for Israel's security and informed the minister of additional measures to include ongoing and future defensive force posture changes that the department will take to support the defense of Israel. Secretary Austin highlighted that further escalation is not inevitable, and that all countries in the region would benefit from a de-escalation in tensions, including through completing a Gaza ceasefire and hostage release deal. He also stressed that the unprecedented scale of U.S. support for Israel since October 7th should leave Iran, Lebanese Hezbollah, and other Iranian-backed terrorist groups with no doubt about U.S. resolve.
I wanted to ask about the Middle East. What, if any, sort of contingency planning is occurring to assist Americans in evacuation if that's needed? And what types of force posture changes are being considered to better protect troops if this escalates?
I'll take the second question first. So as you know, and as we've demonstrated since October and again in April, the United States' global defense is dynamic, and the department retains the capability to deploy on short notice to meet evolving national security threats. So as a result, the secretary will be directing multiple forthcoming force posture moves to bolster force protection for U.S. forces region-wide, to provide elevated support to the defense of Israel, and to ensure the United States is prepared to respond to this evolving crisis. In terms of what specifics that means, I don't have that for you right now. Again, that's something that the secretary will be directing at a later time, but when we have more specifics, I'll certainly come back to you. In terms of planning measures, we are a planning organization, as I know you've heard us say before. So I'm not going to engage in hypotheticals, but of course we always have contingency plans in place. But again, just not going to go down the hypothetical route.
So on the force posture changes, though, you say at a later date, are we talking, within hours, within a couple of days, by this weekend? And would these troops be being pulled from the Indo-Pacific, or are these domestic forces that would be sent?
In terms of specific troops or capabilities, again, this is something that's with the secretary, and the secretary will be deciding. I don't have a specific timeline for you. Once we have more information, as you know, we'll certainly provide it. But at this moment, I just don't have that. Oren.
I just want to be clear here. Yesterday, President Biden spoke with Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and spoke of, and I quote here, new defensive U.S. military deployments.
Yeah.
Those haven't been ordered yet. He was speaking hypothetically yesterday, or have they been decided and ordered at this point?
The secretary and the president have been in close conversations about this. The secretary will be directing forthcoming force posture moves to bolster our force protection. So there's a commitment that was made in the call with the president and Prime Minister Netanyahu in terms of what specific units, what specific capabilities. That's something that the secretary will decide. I don't have an exact timeline of when that decision will be made, but that was a commitment that the president reiterated to Prime Minister Netanyahu that you saw on the call yesterday. And again, the secretary reiterated that in his call with Minister Gallant that happened earlier this morning.
And just to be clear on the wording here, because the word defensive is very prominent in what you're saying. There are no, it is purely defensive. Is this ground-based air defenses? Is it air defenses based on destroyers? And you're not shifting any offensive capabilities?
So appreciate the question. So again, these are defensive capabilities. As we have done before since October 7th and what we did on April 13th, all of our capabilities that we have there in the region are defensive and to send a message of deterrence. The secretary on his call committed to Minister Gallant that the United States will stand with Israel in their self-defense. So these would be defensive capabilities if needed.
What this means that not only will the US continue to turn a blind eye to current ongoing Israeli atrocities in the region, but the Biden administration will happily provide more and more weapons to commit those excesses in violation of international laws and international humanitarian laws. And when other countries such as Iran and Lebanon exercise their right to defense, this will be unacceptable to the rogue regime of the USA. The US war criminals and supporters of baby killers and rapists have made it abundantly clear to the world that they are prepared to go to any level to defend the act of sodomy by Israeli terrorists, Israeli bombing of Palestinian hospitals, rape and murder of Palestinian men, women, children, and babies by Netanyahu's thugs posing as army soldiers. Dear Americans, feel proud that the representative that you elected are siding with the genocidal regimes. Tell your children that they should be proud of their parents of having funded the genocide of Palestinians and supported Israeli army to perform an act of sodomy on Palestinian people. That's what the world witnessed recently. The IDF recently released all its soldiers accused of sodomizing a Palestinian hostage after members of the unit staged violent protests. When asked, an Israeli politician justified their act, linking it to their values and upbringing. At least the world now knows that every single allegation made by Israelis against Hamas has been a big lie, while Israeli terrorists have committed all those brutalities that they once falsely accused Hamas of having carried out. That's the face of Israel the world is seeing every day. Thank you very much for watching this video. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, please do so, because that's one of the many ways you can support independent journalism. God bless you all.